Photosynthesis is a process through which plants and other organisms transform light energy into chemical energy, which is then released to power the organism's activities through cellular respiration. Because photosynthesis is the primary source of oxygen in the atmosphere, it is vital to living organisms. The carbon cycle would not be possible without photosynthesis. Oxygen-dependent life and plants would perish. Photosynthesis happens in the chloroplast of the plant cell. Photosynthesis has two reactions, and it is light-dependent reaction and Calvin cycle. The light-dependent reaction happens in the thylakoids. The first requirement in light-dependent reaction is the photons, and the raw materials needed are water and light energy. In the process of light-dependent reaction, it has photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. In photosystem 2, once the chlorophyll has absorbed the photon, it will become energized and go to the transport electron chain. ATP is waiting for the electron or phosphate. The phosphate will be attached to ADP to become ATP. Remember that ADP has only two phosphates. That's why when another phosphate is attached to it, it will become ATP. In photosystem 1, NADP plus is waiting for the splitting of H2O, and it is called photolysis. The hydrogen will be accepted in NADP plus and it will become NADPH, while the hydrogen will be released on the atmosphere. ATP and NADPH are the products of light-dependent reaction and will be needed in the Calvin cycle. The light-independent reaction or Calvin cycle happens in the stroma. The Calvin cycle has three stages. It is carbon dioxide fixation, reduction, and regeneration. In the first stage, carbon dioxide is waiting for the RUBP or ribulose biphosphate, and it has 5 carbons. Through the use of the Rubisco enzyme, it will accept the RUBP to become 6 unstable carbons. These 6 unstable carbons will be divided into 2 molecules of 3-phosphoglyceric acid. In the second stage, reduction, ATP and NADPH will be used. This comes from the light reaction. The 3-phosphoglyceric acid will now become glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate because it will get the hydrogen from the NADPH and the phosphate from ATP. Basically, ATP will become ADP and NADPH will become NADP+, and they will go again to the thylakoids for the series of light-dependent reaction. In the third stage, regeneration, it needs to produce 5 carbons for the series of carbons of the Calvin cycle. It needs to have 6 terms to produce carbohydrates. Carbohydrates or sugar are the product of the Calvin cycle. Importance: light-dependent reactions are necessary because they create oxygen, which is required for the survival of most living things or organisms. Oxygen aids in the growth, reproduction, and conversion of food into energy of organisms. Humans obtain oxygen by breathing into their lungs through their nose and mouth. Our cells require oxygen to break down food in order to obtain the energy they require to exist. The Calvin cycle is also important because it produces food for autotrophs. Technically, photosynthesis have always been significant for all living things.